Hello and welcome to this final webinar on the topic of chemical management and sustainable chemistry for the textile industry. We appreciate that you all have taken the time to join us today in this role play where we will have a look at what does MRSL Conformance mean for a brand liaison office, for a tier 2 factory, for a chemical formulator. What's in it for me? We also want to say a big thank you for participants who are joining us from different parts of the world. So merhaba, salam, namaste, ni hao, guten morgen, xin chào. Thank you very much for taking the time to join us. What's also useful to see is the spread of the participants. So on one hand, we have tier 1 and tier 2 manufacturers, but we also have brand retailer liaison offices in the regions and countries. We also have our peer service providers, testing houses and auditing houses, and importantly, the chemical formulators. Another interesting aspect to note is during registration, you all indicated the amount of chemical products that you are using, which are being imported from overseas. And what's also interesting to see is that in our globalized world, we see that half of you are importing more than half of the chemical products that you're using in production. So having looked at all of that data, now is time to share with you our experience when our colleagues, our MRSL certification experts have been engaging with chemical formulators. How has this engagement been? What is the kind of discussion that our colleagues are having? So let's start looking at an interaction, a role play with an undecided chemical formulator about ZDHC MRSL Conformance. For that, we have our colleague, Mr. Ata Bayraktar. He's based in Turkey, and he's one of our advisors for MRSL certification.
Yeah, hi Rakesh.
Oh, hello Atabe, how are you?
I am fine, how are you doing?
Well, everything is great. You know, the only part is the inflation in Turkey. So like everybody else, we are also busy in saving cost.
Yes, you're right. As you know, we talk about this ZDHC MRSL issue a week before, and I'm going to it in deeper to have your questions and to have your insights to be answered from our end. How can we help you, Mr. Rakesh?
Oh, very important, Ata. It's an important point you brought up. Can you tell me, you were explaining to me that there are some fashion companies who are involved with this ZDHC topic and MRSL. Are the big industry players also involved in this initiative? Are they committed?
Yes, Rakesh, thanks for this question. As you know, each year the ZDHC database of different stakeholders like brands, associates, suppliers, chemical formulators, labs, and this is a fast-growing improvement and also an environment that I can mention. There is a very good collaboration between many big organizations, international brands, and retailers in the textile, apparel, leather, and footwear industry. As you can see from the scheme here, there are many contributors that are being a part of the play of ZDHC. And as you know, maybe you heard about the chemical companies that are in the play.
Oh, yes. I want to know, is it only the big brands or are there also chemical companies like us involved in this initiative?
Yes, Rakesh. It's been an initiative, a mind shift, I can clearly mention, in the fashion industry, moving the focus from harmful substances in the finished products to eliminating hazardous chemicals throughout the manufacturing processes. So in 2020, we saw a noticeable increase in the active engagement between brands, suppliers, and as I mentioned, as well as the chemical formulators. This reflects the broadening movement throughout the industry towards sustainable chemistry and is through implementation at the operational level, as you know. As we see the Roadmap to Zero program, the number of active chemical formulators in ZDHC gateway increased by 37%, as mentioned here, Rakesh, in 2020 compared with the previous year. This means that this is a very good demand, and the ZDHC gateway, the world's largest database of sustainable chemical products for the fashion industry, is being used more than ever today. In 2021, Rakesh, can you believe the platform has increased and reached up to 359 formulators in the gateway, which shows us the registration part in the gateway. Oh, and also not only the chemical companies, but also the suppliers are there, as you know, the brands are there, and this is a full initiative.
Thank you, Atabe. It's the suppliers that we care about because, you know, they are our customers, yeah?
Yes, okay. Yes, correct.
You know, Atabe, we are a global company. We have 5 production centers, yeah, in different countries. So while I like what you just showed me, when we start implementing such requirements, we will have to make sure that we are implementing in a harmonized manner across all of our production facilities, yeah? They are also in India, in China, in Vietnam. I don't know how we will handle that part, yeah?
This is a very good question, Rakesh. As we show a global coverage, as TÜV Rheinland leads the world in empowering and enabling consumers and companies to protect our planet by making responsible decisions. I can say that with TÜV Rheinland standardized solutions, which optimize customers' manufacturing processes, help deliver high quality and more sustainable products, and also more sustainable products in different regions and countries where you operate. So up to date, I can say that more than 20,000 manufacturers, brands, and retailers in almost 60 countries are working with TÜV Rheinland to ensure that their products are tested for potentially harmful substances, and millions of consumers around the world look for TÜV labels, TÜV Rheinland labels, before making buying decisions. And in terms of expertise, we tested and certified more than 1,000 products in Turkey. So it's a good expertise that we can collaborate in different regions. More than that, I can say that with our remote services, remote audit services, we can support you, reduce your health risks, and increase your efficiency, along with the flexibility and with our online platforms, we can do the audits.
Okay, got it. Now, Atta, you can mention something like MRSL 1, 2, 3. Well, I'm only afraid that when you tell me to go higher and higher, you will expect us to pay also higher and higher. Yeah. So is it also only increase in cost, or?
Yeah, Rakesh, it is a matter of fact that ZDHC MRSL Conformance have different levels. As you know, the highest level in the current program is level 3, which indicates that the TÜV certified chemical substances meet the ZDHC guidelines for safer chemistries, but also the production areas are verified through the responsible manufacturing practices. So it means that in assuring ZDHC MRSL Level 3 conformance, you will showcase how you protect your workers, your consumers, and the environment. And this will also have additional benefits for you to sell your products more easily, more independently. So it's a matter of fact that you have not initiate an extra cost, but reduce your cost. Shall I tell how?
Yes, please. I'm always interested how to reduce cost, yeah, and be efficient.
Yes. You know that ZDHC is using this chemical gateway module. Please kindly note that only published chemical products will be searchable to your brands and suppliers. So means that once you use the system to be visible to your customers, you need to publish your products. And if you are on the level 1, If you want to publish your product, then there occurs a product fee per published product. But in level 3, you can reduce this cost efficiently. And also with our services, we are collaborating with different stakeholders, for example, ministries and the funding parts that will support you to reduce and to get some money back from the fund initiative. So I will discuss it in deeply with you if you want, and we can also have this point.
Okay. Now, Siata, I think you expect us and our team to put in efforts, yeah, and to do a lot more. I'm sure we are doing already many of the things, but you expect us to do more, yeah? You know, the point is, all the big brands, you can see them when you go to a shopping mall, you can see them online. They get visibility, recognition because of their work on sustainable chemistry. But what recognition will we get as a chemical company when we invest efforts into going from MRSL 1, 2, or level 3?
This is a very good question, Rakesh. And there are different approaches, as I can mention, that with the chemical formulator or the brand or the supplier, there are different initiatives that are following by ZDHC programs. As you know, the Brands to Zero program, the assessment allows a shared quantitative approach to measure the rollout of every brand's detox activities, as well as tracking the improvements on how they act in the supply chain. So back in the day, each brand used different metrics to report their performance. So now there is a shared baseline to evaluate the levels of engagement as well as improvement over time and overall industry impact. And I can say clearly in the suppliers that with the Supplier to Zero program, they can check their inventory, how their chemicals are safe, and how can they have bigger scores in audits such as SIC, FEM, or environmental audits that they are requesting by other brands. And with the chemical formulator side, I can say that with the help of ChemCheck reports, with the help of TÜV Rheinland certificates, you can be sure that you have the products, how many products is registered, how many of them is level 3 approved, how many of the products you need to reach in some cases. So you enable the transparency and traceability. And there is a new approach, a white paper that everyone in the stakeholders is discussing. What if we can connect this data together with a blockchain industry? We will see this effect in the future, that if we have the overall picture, then you will have the power of the safer alternatives, safer chemistry, greener chemistry, and this means a big effect to your business.
So Atta, I'm going to use this information for our corporate development, yeah, to speak. And next week, let's have a meeting together with our product stewardship manager and our site safety engineer to understand what requirements we have to fulfill. And then please guide us and support us with level 3 conformance, yeah.
Thank you very much, Rakesh. One point I need to underline is that, as you know, consumers are becoming increasingly interested in and concerned with the safety of the products that they buy, as you mentioned. Therefore, there are REACH regulations. There are different aspects that the companies should take over. So maybe we need to talk about the companies now are obliged to answer any consumer inquiry about whether a ZDHC is present in an article within 45 days, for example. So we can also support you in this kind of services. And also energy management, I know that your company is focusing on this point very much. And the air quality, we can have divided different services on this, which we can support and which we can talk and develop together.
Tamam, Atta bhai. Thank you very much. I'm convinced. How about the participants? If there's something we missed out with regards to what's in there for a chemical manufacturer, how can they benefit? Please put in your questions via Q&A. Thank you, Atta.
Thank you, Rakesh.
Having looked at interaction with an undecided chemical formulator, now let's look at an interaction with a chemical formulator, which is making natural and bio-based chemical products for the textile industry. For that, we have our colleague, Mr. Sisade Pradhan.
Hi, Rakeshji. Good morning.
Oh, hello, Pradhanji. How are you?
I'm good, Rakeshji. How are you?
All good. Yes, you know, it's busy time. The world wants sustainable products, better products, natural products. So we are in the right business at the right time. The demand for our natural dye stuff and also other textile chemicals is growing. So yeah, busy, but busy is good for business. Yeah, all good.
Yeah, great to know you. As you rightly mentioned, you are the talk of the town now because everybody now looking at the global climate change or maybe greenhouse effect. So everybody tends or maybe putting their best foot forward to reduce this greenhouse effect or maybe mitigate this climate change. And to develop that, how we can do that? We have to develop or we have to do some socially, environmentally, or economically sustainable economy. When we say that sustainable things, that we have to see how we can manage or how we can design those good product or maybe the process right process to follow. So in that way what we do, we can do these chemicals or materials that have been produced should be safe, regulated, and free from all these hazardous chemicals. And going by that way, biochemicals are the right one, and you are already up there. And if you see the report, Rakeshji, in coming time, the world is looking at producing 90 million tons of these biochemicals or the maybe polymers with worth of maybe 10 billion USD. So you are in the right there. So as we proposed some ZDHC MRSL testing last week, did you got time to think about that, Rakeshji?
Yes, Pradhanji. I discussed with our team. Yeah, essentially that ZDHC MRSL requirement is to check for harmful substances. But
Yes.
our products are based on extract from flowers, from plants. We also use algae for our chemicals. So we don't see that there is any problem with our chemicals or harmful substances. Our customers trust us. Yeah.
Yeah, Rakeshji, I'll partially agree with you. Definitely, I'll agree with you, but partially. As I mentioned, when we talk about safe for design of the product, we have to ensure that products are really safe. How we can do that? We need some independent third party to certify that, right, sir? So we are there. We are there to help you out. We are sure that your products are safe, but to validate that, you need a report or maybe certificate, and will be happy to support you there. There are few steps I can guide you, or we can discuss on that, and to help you compliance your product. Then you can brand your product globally because all these brands now looking at all these sustainable chemicals which can be recycled. And since you already producing biochemicals, you can be of a good use. You can attract good customer.
Okay. But you know, Pradhanji, my philosophy is simple. Be simple. We do simple things. We understand simple things. We believe in simple things. Yeah. This ZDHC, MRSL compliance, it seems very complicated for me. Yeah.
No, absolutely. I can understand the complexity, but you don't have to you don't need to worry about. We are there. We have an expert team at place. We'll help you at every stage to make you understand, to guide you to produce the right product, to so that you can safely place your product in the market, and you can brand it more, so that more and more all these retail brand can pick your stock, and that will help you branding or getting more business in coming time. As I already mentioned, there is a big market out there, almost 10 billion USD. So market is already there, and you are already producing biochemicals, which is almost safe. Just need a certification or test report to validate your claim, right, sir? Then what
Yeah.
you need to do? Market is there. You just have to give us the chemicals for the review. We'll check all your materials. Our technical experts will help you guide what test to be performed so that your test will give you the compliance report. Then after assessment, we'll get you the certificate or maybe report. Then all these report will be uploaded in JDSC site where all these big brands can find you.
Okay. Okay. And then is it a one-time thing?
No, Rakeshji, it's not a one time. As you know, this ZDHC keep inventing all these research, and there is every 2 year there is some kind of change. So you don't need to worry about. We have a technical or expert team in place. We'll get you training. We'll get you updating all these things changes, and we'll help you make sure that your products are at the right hand.
Okay. Thank you, Pradhanji. I'm convinced. How about our participants? If you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A chat. Thanks, Pradhan.
Thank you, Rakeshji.
Now, having looked about and spoken to the important players, the chemical formulators, let's now meet a tier 2 factory. This tier 2 factory is not fully decided on how and why they should conform with MRSL. For that, we have our colleague, Ms. Chow.
Mr. Rakesh, how are you?
Xin Chow, Ms. Chow, I'm doing well. How about you? Has the lockdown ended? How's things for you and your family?
Yeah, thank you. My family and I is good now because the lockdown is closed, and now everything is come back to this old way. So now I'm super busy at that time because we have a lot of production order because the factory is open again, and especially for the end of this year. Yeah. Right. So today, thank you for your time because I would like to share with you some useful information about ZDHC and MRSL.
Yes, I remember our conversation. But Ms. Chow, my customers are the tier 1 factories, cut and make factories, and they are primarily serving brands and retailers in North America and in Asia, Japan, Korea. I think this ZDHC MRSL is more for European brands, isn't it?
It's not correct because the MRSL, ZDHC MRSL is the largest for several years ago, and now the area of ZDHC MRSL is spread over the world. You can see the map on the screen, and for Asia and US, many brands and retailers, they are member of ZDHC MRSL already, and I think your customer are focusing on this also.
I see. And but what about, I think I understand now that customers in America might be doing so. So, we are doing wastewater analysis already. So let's talk next year, maybe in 2022, quarter 3 or quarter 4. There is no hurry, right?
Yeah, but I think maybe now you have to focus on the ZDHC MRSL because your factory might already be in the list of open apparel registry or the top life because the effectiveness of ZDHC MRSL is very spread worldwide, and many brands and retailers focus on that already.
I see. Okay. Yeah. But I don't understand. We are doing wastewater analysis, so of course our results can end up on Detox Live. But we are also having these annual audits, SAC, HIG, FEM, Amphori, BEPI. Do we still have to focus on MRSL then?
Yeah, definitely. Because now you are conducting for assessment or audit of peak of BF on GOS, and this audit, they based on the requirement of ZDHC MRSL already, and using the MRSL is very useful for your product and your audit.
I see. Okay.
Yes.
Well, what about other factories in Vietnam, in Indonesia? Are they also working on MRSL, talking to their chemical suppliers?
Yes, for sure. They are using a lot. You can see the figure in the chart. You can see the growth of the chemical and the wastewater testing, as well as the supplier. They use the MRSL. So you see the growth is very a lot. It means that many supplier, many tier 1 and 2 using MRSL day by day.
Okay, I see.
Yes.
Okay, I see, Ms. Chow, yeah. I think we will have to do something, but like in our company, like all company, if we have to allocate resources for something, Then our boss will say, what will be the outcome? Will you get recognition? How will people know what we are doing? Is there any way that the world can know what our factory is doing then?
Yeah, absolutely. All your efforts will be shown up to all to the world, because now we have the in-check report. This is a tool of a Supplier to Zero program, and all your efforts will be organized and will be recognized in the in-check score. The more effort you put on training, ZDHC Academy or ZDHC Wastewater, as well as the ZDHC MRSL, will be scored in in-check. The more effort you put, the more score you get.
I see. Okay, okay. So, Ms. Chow, what should we do? What is your recommendation?
Yes. So from your side, it's very simple. You just invite your chemical suppliers to a ZDHC MRSL version 2 Conformance webinar, and we can organize with local language or English as well. So don't worry too much about the issue. When after your chemical supplier try the webinar, they will have the more information, and they will comply with ZDHC MRSL. So it can help you to get the better ZDHC in-check score, get a better ZDHC 0 to Supplier to Zero performance. You can reduce the harmful chemical on your product and wastewater. And finally, of course, you will get the better performance on the audit of PIC or BPI or GOS and so on audit. So it's very useful for your tier 2. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, Ms. Chow, I am convinced. Thank you very much. If our participants have any questions, something we missed out, please add it to the Q&A. Thank you, Ms. Chow.
Yeah, thank you so much. We are waiting for your information, and we will support you very closely to organize the webinar. You will see the useful information and useful benefits that MRSL can bring to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, having looked at interaction with chemical formulators and tier 2 factories, let's now have a talk with a brand liaison office, a regional or a country level brand liaison office, which, like many of you would know, is having a busy time at the moment. Yeah? So for that, we have our colleague, Mr. Monjurul Haq.
Hello, dear Mr. Rakesh. How are you?
Oh, Mr. Manjurul, I'm doing well. How about you? You know, this is a busy time. We have to wind up all work by 20th December. End of year is coming so that we can have some time to enjoy and relax. Yeah.
Okay, good, nice. So last time when I met you, you were telling that you were thinking about ZDHC, MRSL testing, something like that. You have some KPIs, global KPIs. Can you please? How's the condition now?
Oh, very good point. You know, at the end of the day, everybody cares about performance, about impact. So we also have to prepare an overview of what is the performance of the suppliers in this country, in this region where we are taking care of sourcing. So we capture information like how many of them are on Supplier to Zero, how many of them have in-check, what is the in-check performance, how many have finding on MRSL parameter and wastewater. We collect information for our country and then we give it to our head office. So it's an important part to do, and that's what we are focused on. Yeah.
Okay, good. But, you know, last time we were working with a brand. They were asking, come forward to us and asked us to support them to identify their global supply chain condition in terms of ZDHC MRSL test and their quality. So you will be very much interested to know that we did a lot of testing, as well as we identify not only in Bangladesh, we do testing in China, India, Turkey. So brand have different manufacturing unit in different countries. So we do the analysis, we combine all the information and identify what are the gray areas for them, how to improve, how they can improve those areas. We identify that areas and support them with the information, how to align and compliant and how to reach their supplier to the zero substance, harmful substance for their wastewater and chemicals. So
that is very
how
good.
you
Yeah,
are thinking?
I think it is. I think our head office might be doing something similar, because
Yeah.
at the end, they are also looking what is the performance of the brand liaison office in Bangladesh versus China versus India versus Turkey and Vietnam. And healthy competition is always good. We can also learn from our counterparts in the other region. You are right. Yeah, that's the KPI metric. At the moment, we focus more on wastewater analysis, and so on. Yeah.
But you know, not only the wastewater, if you want to reduce your risk, you have to analyze your chemical, raw material. And nowadays, all the brands are more focused. They try to reduce their risk by doing the testing from the initial stage. Suppose you are purchasing a chemical which is not compliant with the ZDHC requirement, which doesn't have any test report. So end of the day, you will fail a fail report. So rather, you can start it in the initial stage, do the testing for MRSL level 1, 2, and 3. Also, if you do testing for wastewater, sludge, and inlet, outlet, it could give you a very clear idea about the condition and the status of your supply chain.
I see. I see. But Monjurul, I think when we put in efforts and we do more than what we are doing, our boss will ask us, yeah, when you do more, what will be the outcome? What will be the impact? How will it be compared with others? There has to be, visibility for our work finally.
Sure, it's true. But on the other hand, if you go through this process, if you do the testing, analysis, and identify the gray areas, definitely your brand value will increase. Your supply chain will reduce their failed ratio, so that consumer will be more interested to buy your product, as you are producing green cloths free from hazardous chemical. So you have to invest and you have to do the analysis. Otherwise, you cannot reduce the risk. It will also impact your brand image. So like other good brands, we can support you to improve your quality and to achieve your goal or KPI in terms of sustainability.
Okay, got it. Okay, so do you have some recommendation on how I should engage with our supply chain, our tier 1, tier 2, what information?
Sure. You know, we are a global company and we have in many sourcing location, we have laboratory and we have experts. So step by step, we can support you. There is a 5 steps you can see. So we can do a training program, webinar for your tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 supplier. Not only in Bangladesh, we can do it in India, China, Pakistan, even in local language, we can arrange training and webinar to educate them to align with the updated requirements of ZDHC, MRSL, and wastewater test.
Okay, so how should we start, Monjurul bhai?
Sure, since you are in the very close to end of the year, I think I can promote you a quick 2 or 3 hour webinar for your supply chain, for your raw material or chemical supplier, and arrange a quick webinar across the globe. If you want, we can do it globally or we can do it locally also in local language. And it will help you, it will help your supply chain to get good score in BAPI audit, Higg index audit, and they can get a good score in ZDHC and in clean check score also.
Okay, got it.
Just let us know how we can support you. We are there.
I'm convinced, yeah. Let's have the webinar before we go on holidays, yeah, before December 20th then, for tier 1s, and then they can inform. Thank you very much. If the participants have a question that we did not clarify during this interaction from the perspective of a liaison office, please add it to the Q&A, yeah. Now, having looked at these details and this interaction with the various stakeholders, chemical formulators, tier 2 factories, brand liaison offices, let's have a little bit closer look into ZDHC MRSL version 2. What's included, what's required to be done, and so on to address it. Yeah. So Ryan, let's hear the message from our colleague Stefan, who's our leader for chemical regulations. Yeah.
Here, which I would like to bring out, is that in the last change, on the latest change from version 1.1 to 2.0, there have been significant changes addressed by the ZDHC. One of them is that there have been additional materials added, rubber, foam, and adhesives, but also, and that's, I think, quite important for you to know, that there are 60 newly added substances. However, and that's something which I think it's very, very important to see, there are also new subchapters introduced. And one of the subchapters, I think it's very important to look at, is the ZDHC MRSL candidate list. By looking at the ZDHC MRSL candidate list, you will see somehow what could be potential new candidate or new substances for ZDHC MRSL version, let's call it 3.0. So a few of them you can see here. So they are already on these substances are already on the candidate list, and they will be highly probable be added to the new version on the candidate list. One of them I think you should look at is formaldehyde, dimethyl fumarate, additional PFC substances, and additional metal. However, there's also chemicals like aniline added, and also siloxanes, which are used in silicon material. Therefore, I think not every chemical really is necessary to be added. However, they all have a toxicological or potential toxicological impact on the environment or on the user. And that's next part of my presentation is that's something I get asked quite a lot, is how is the process of adding chemicals to the ZDHC MRSL. So basically ZDHC has established process and or principles on nominating chemicals to the ZDHC MRSL candidate list. If a chemical is added to the candidate list, then it could be nominated also to be part of the ZDHC MRSL with the next revision. However, but to be part of the candidate list, there will be a review process triggered by ZDHC where toxicological aspects are reviewed, technological aspects are reviewed, and also the actual use in the industry will be reviewed. So with all of those aspects together, there could be by a specific task team a decision that the chemical should be promoted to be part of the ZDHC candidate list. And there is a close connection between regulatory changes and also these somehow non-regulatory changes, because ZDHC MRSL is a non-regulatory testing requirement. However, the basic principle is identical. Someone is promoting or is proposing a chemical, and then there is an assessment process. That's exactly what the ECHA in European is doing, or what the EPA in America is doing. And here I would like to bring out some connections between the MRSL and changes in REACH. REACH is the chemical regulation, chemical framework regulation in Europe. When REACH evaluates and assesses chemicals, they will exactly do the same as the ZDHC is doing. They will look at the toxicity, at environmental properties, at toxic properties, at the usage also of chemicals. Is it necessary to be added? Is it mandatory to be added? Or can it be replaced? What are the substitute, or what are the alternative chemicals here? And by looking at all the different aspects, then ECHA and same as ZDHC, we do a proposal to include specific chemicals. And for ECHA or for REACH regulation, this could be REACH Annex 17, which is a material restriction, or it could be that the chemical will be added to the SVHC list. SVHC list is the substances of very high concerns list. By adding those chemicals to either Annex 17 or REACH SVHC, it will trigger another process, because then brands need to adjust their restricted substances lists. If their restricted substances lists get adjusted, they also need somehow restrict the use in the production. And that can be done by adding it to the MRSL, by the ZDHC MRSL, which means they will trigger then the process of adding those chemicals to the ZDHC candidate list. And additionally, when looking at the ZDHC MRSL, it's also necessary to look at the wastewater limits or the wastewater guideline of ZDHC, because in the end is maybe somehow with chemicals are restricted in the MRSL. As some chemicals are not really 100% covered here, it's also necessary to look at wastewater, because in the end is not all chemicals are at the moment, I have to say, part of the ZDHC MRSL certification process. Now I would like to come to the main part of our presentation today, which is our frequently asked questions. And that's something my colleagues and I have been collecting now since quite a long time, where we say, okay, we would like to look at specific problems from the industry, or even questions from the industry, questions from stakeholders. And here you can only see a few common questions. And I would like to take the chance to talk about those, to give you some insights, and also to give you maybe a better idea on why TÜV Rheinland is doing it like this. So first of all, I think the first question, who can apply MRSL conformance levels? I think everyone who produces, who distributes somehow his own chemicals can apply for these kinds of level 1 or for level 1 certificate. When looking at level 2 and level 3 certificates, that gets a bit more complicated, because here you need to have a specific role in the industry. So you should be a chemical formulator. You should produce chemicals instead of relabeling chemicals. What are the levels of conformance? There are, as you know, there are 3 levels of conformance: level 1, level 2, and level 3. Depending on the level, you have to provide additional or different documents, different additional evidence, let's say it like this. So the higher the conformance level is, the more information you have to provide. However, also, higher level of conformance means that it's also increasingly more known about the chemical, which then in the end could cause that chemical chemical formulators need to provide more details about processes, about the factories, about chemicals itself, like safety data sheets, about specific mixtures, about the connection or about the reaction of different chemicals when put into chemical formulation. But also this will be somehow give brands or retailer a higher value, because if you have level 3 in the end, a brand knows that you had to provide more information. You have so fulfilled your due diligence, and therefore the chemical somehow for them could be more reasonable to be used instead of a non-compliant, also instead of a chemical which is not applied, which has not applied the ZDHC MRSL certification. So again, to summarize, there are 3 levels. The higher the level, the more information you have to provide to receive the levels, or to certify according to the levels. What does the chemical formulator have to upload to ZDHC gateway? Basically, I think there are basic documents which always has to be uploaded. This is a safety data sheet, and that's a third-party documentation. This could be a summary report, this could be a certificate for level 1, but this could be also additional documents like a chemical certificate. It could be also an audit report for level 3. So depending on the level, different documents have to be uploaded. Is a self-declaration of the product allowed? And that's clearly no, it's not allowed anymore. Since last year, ZDHC has run out level 0. So self-declaration for products is not allowed anymore. And all chemicals which had 0 or level 0 have now been deleted from the gateway, or have been set, I guess, I think it's more like inactive. Do the involved parties still need to perform RSL testing even if all chemicals meet the MRSL limit? And unfortunately, or I have to say, yes, you still have to conduct the RSL test. Because, and that's something we know from testing and also from our experience here, is that there are 2 facts we need to look at. First fact is there could be side effects of chemical reactions. So which means a chemical A could react with the chemical B, and by reacting or by reaction of those chemicals, a new chemical could be created somehow, which then is part of the RSL. That's a very seldom, a very rare occasion. However, it could happen. And also in the other case is that more or less, I think in the end, we are not looking at only the contaminations of chemicals. It could be also improper storaging could be one reason. And that's something we can see from our root cause analysis, where improper chemical storage with non-compliant chemical containers could cause a migration of chemicals from the container to the chemical itself. So phthalates, for example, this could happen, and that is happening, by the way. If chemical containers containing phthalates, for example, those phthalates could migrate from the container into the dye stuff, and then when it's in the dye stuff, you would use the dye stuff to produce printing, to produce a blue shirt, and therefore there could be a contamination by using improper storage or improper storage in container. And therefore, it's always recommended to do a final RSL testing. Will there be a revision of the MRSL? Yes, there will be a revision, and we know for sure that it will be coming quite soon. However, don't get be afraid. First of all, you know somehow which chemicals could be added because they are on the candidate list, and there will be a transitional period when looking at the ZDHC MRSL, let's call it 3.0. Why are limits in the MRSL higher than those in the RSL? And I think it's a valid question. It's a very good question. So chemicals used in the manufacturing process contain much more concentrated levels of chemicals, which then become diluted during the processing. So this could be first of all during the wet processing. This could be used of all during the final fixation. So you will not use 100% of a chemical formulation inside a textile fiber. It's only part of the chemical formulation will then will migrate into the textile fiber. An example for dye stuff. Basically 3 to 6% of the dye stuff will be found or will be migrate into the final textile. And that's one reason why the limit will decrease from, for example, azodized MRSL is 150 milligram to the RSL, where the final concentration is then between 5 and 30, depending on legal, depending on customer requirements. Also, we need to look at different aspects here. So therefore, any substance residual in a finished product will almost be present, but in lower concentrations than those in the chemical formulation. So it's not the case in the RSL anymore. So the RSL, there's no dilution process. If I have a finished product, finished textile, and I will produce a finished textile, and then we'll cut it, and then I will produce a shirt out of it, it still is a finished product. So therefore, it's really valid to say that each product has a specific limit and you should meet the specific limit. The customer has 100 products. So is there a guideline for grouping or for composite testing? To apply the composite testing, yes, it is theoretically it's possible. However, there are some aspects we need to look at. Is first of all, what kind of chemical do I have? Is it highly reactive? Is it moderate reactive? So what are the physical characteristics? Is it solid, fluid? What is the pH value? It's if there's a reaction between chemical A and chemical B when I put them together, then it will not work. So however, the characteristics of the chemicals mixed in a composite testing should be identical. And that's something we will evaluate when offering a composite testing. So comparing to composite testing, there always comes the question for screening. Screening is a more wide approach for testing. And so, yes, screening methods are possible. However, at the current state, ZDHC is not suggesting screening method. We know there will be a change also somehow that screening method will be accepted. At the time being, it is not accepted. However, it is possible to use screening methods for compliance testing against ZDHC MRSL. But as I said, it's really, really important to look at the overall chemical formulation. Somehow it's not supporting to use screening method against a total content testing for individual substances, because the costs, because of the chemical itself, we need to only look at NPO, maybe at or at pH or at other chemicals. Then it's not necessary to offer a screening test. If I can already in the beginning select specific tests out of the applicable tests or out of the necessary tests. So therefore, screening test always screens for all, but that's not always necessary. For some chemicals, we are quite well aware of that they only can contain a specific MRSL substances as unintentional contamination. So therefore, it's always a case-by-case decision. So under the current ZDHC MRSL certification, will you be able to accept competitor reports? I think that's the most common questions we receive for level 3. And yes, for level 3, we will be able to accept competitor reports, but that's only possible for level 3. At the moment, and that's something we will do here, all documents will be reviewed by a technical expert. And the technical expert will reserve the right to assess those documents and then, based on our internal assessment guidelines, evaluate if additional testing is necessary. So it could be possible that maybe even if existing level 1 certificates are available, that additional testing is necessary based on our internal assessment. But that's something because that's something based on our compliance policy. If the chemical formulator has more than one manufacturing facility, does it require to do an assessment of each chemical formulation of every manufacturing facility? Yes. If the formulation are produced in more than one location, each location has to submit data for the evaluation. However, and that's something I have to say, it's in case the chemical formulation in every operation units are identical, it will be possible to accept the declaration and only test the chemical one time. But to meet those requirements, there should be basic rules. And those basic rules are that the procurement process of the chemical is identical. So it means it's the same chemical, it's the same quality, and also it's bought from the same supplier. So if those basic requirements are met, yes, then it is possible to assess and only test one chemical. And for all the other facilities for the chemical, you would need to sign a declaration letter. So
all right. That was our colleague Stefan Tumpner He leads our Technical Competence Center for Chemical Regulations. And what he was sharing with us is the changes with MRSL version 2.0, how to address some of those fine points, and how to prepare for this continuously updating standard. Every 2 years, there's going to be a new version of MRSL from ZDHC. So how to prepare for that, how to combine many of your chemical products which are having the same base material, and so on. Yeah. What we heard since the beginning was this topic of MRSL Level 3. This is like, let's say, the peak of MRSL Conformance. So when chemical companies have completed that basic level requirements of level 1 for their products, and the ones that who want to reach the top, who want to showcase product stewardship practices, who want to showcase their practices in their manufacturing processes with regards to traceability, with regards to environmental compliance, with regards to sustainable chemistry. This level 3 is for them. Of course, with this, we know there's benefit in terms of cost savings, but there's also benefit because there are some brands out there who require only MRSL level 3 conformant chemicals to be used in production. So for that, we have our colleague, Ms. Aro Shu. She's the leader for our Chemical Management System Evaluation Program. So she's an active auditor for Amphori BEPI. She also conducts verification as per Hague FEM. And she's also one of our ZDHC trainers. So Aro, it will be useful to understand from you what requirements have to be fulfilled for MRSL level 3. How many of these requirements are totally new for the chemical industry? I mean, we are talking about an industry which has the Together for Sustainability TFS standard. They are already implementing the Responsible Care standard, the RC 14001. How much more do they need to do? How should they prepare so as to go through this conformance process as quickly as possible? If you can please share some insights, Aro.
Yeah, yes, sure. Maybe I can, Rakesh can share the presentation, or I need to share by myself?
If you can share it, yeah? Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so Rakesh, as I heard just now from Stefan, that MRSL Level 1 is a testing service, but differentiating with MRSL Level 1, Level 3 is an audit service to validate the chemical manufacturer's management system. So our auditors need to go to the factories to validate if the factories can produce chemicals in compliance with MRSL requirements confidently and continuously. So in this slide, you can find the audit scope. There are 4 main sections: EHS, resource usage, emissions, and product stewardship. And under these 4 main sections, we have 12 subsections in total. So permits, license, management system, process safety, industrial hygiene, fire and explosion, water and energy and GHG. So and the wastewater, air emission, noise and waste management. Of course, we have the hazardous substance control. Similar to other audits, our first priority is to ensure the factories can operate in compliance with legal requirements. So in the permits and the licenses section, the factories need to provide all permits and the license they have to obtain to prove that they are operating in compliance with legal requirements. And then maybe the permits include the business license and the water intake permits, wastewater or air emission discharge permits, and the chemical usage and the chemical production. I mean the hazardous chemicals production and hazardous chemicals usage permits. If the factory have the the pressure equipment such as the boiler, then the relevant permits are also required to provide. And then we will check the management system. So here we will check the factory have the environmental management system, healthy and safety management system. Of course, we do not check if the factory have such kinds of certificates. That means ISO 14001 and ISO 18001 are not mandatory for our MRSL audit, level 3 audit, but we will check if the factory have built up such kinds of management system and if factories have implemented this management system well. Of course, if factories have ISO 14001 or ISO 18001 certificates, it will be much easier for these factories to pass the MRSL Level 3 audit. And next, we will check the water and energy consumption in factories. In this section, we will check how the factories monitor their water and energy consumption and how the reduction target the factory have set for the water and energy, and how is the corresponding implementation plan to reach these targets. Of course, these requirements are all involved in ISO 14001. So that's why I said if factories have ISO 14001 certificate, that will be easier for them to pass the MR Level 3 audit. And next, we will check the wastewater, air emission, noise, and waste management within the facilities premises. So in this section, we will check a factory. If the factory have reasonable approaches, methodologies, or the control devices to ensure their emissions are in compliance with the legal requirements. So maybe some testing reports of the control device, on-site control device, or the control device maintenance records will be reviewed. And last but not least is our chemical hazard. So in this section, we will check if the factories can monitor the chemical hazard from the raw material procurement to the final products. So chemical labels of raw materials and final products, SDS of raw materials and the final products, as well as the MRSL compliance evidence and the chemical traceability are the minimum requirements in this section. So in our checklist, we have in total 161 checkpoints, and the overall score is 100. And we have divided our checkpoints into 3 levels: legal conformity, fundamental requirements, and best practice. And in the legal conformity, we have in total 50 checkpoints. It is a must for factories to meet all requirements in legal conformity. That means there can be no finding in legal conformity. And for level 2 and level 3, the factories can get a higher score if they have less findings in these 2 levels. About the audit results, then we have four gradings: pass, condition 1, condition 2, and fail. So if the factory the number of findings in legal conformity is 0 and the total score is higher than 90, then the factory can get the pass of MRSL Level 3 audit, and then we can issue the certificates to factories directly. But if the number of findings in legal conformity is between 0 and 5, and all the score the overall score is between 80 and 90, then condition 1 will be awarded to this factory. So in this case, the factory needs to close all findings in the legal conformity and improve the total score to 90, and then we will give the offsite closure audit to this factory. So if the factory can meet the requirements, then we can issue the certificates as well. If the number of findings in legal conformity is between 5 and 10, or the overall score is between 60 and 80, though in this case, the condition 2 will be awarded. So in this case, the factory needs to close all findings in the legal conformity and improve the total score to 90 as well. And but this factory needs to close these findings and make improvements within 6 months after our initial audit. So that means our on-site closure audit needed to apply it within 6 months after the initial audit. And the last condition is the fail. So if the factory gets the total score low than 60, or the number of findings in legal conformity is more than 10, so in this case, the factory will get fail to our MRSL Level 3 audit. So the factory will have no chance to have closure audit anymore. So if the factory want to get a certificates, so they need to reapply the audit, and we will assign the new auditors to them for the new audit again. So here is our mandate calculation. Our MRSL Level 3 certificate is valid for 2 years, and the surveillance audit is needed on annual basis. So our certification audit and the surveillance audit, recertification audit, or the closure audit, all these mandates are calculated based on the number of our factory's employees. For example, if the factory has the number of employees less than 100, so the mandate for the certification audit will be 3, and the mandate for the surveillance audit will be 2. So if the factory can get passed in the first time, then the factory can get the certificate directly, as I said just now. But if the factory cannot get passed in the first time, then they need to do the closure audit on-site or off-site, just depending on the condition 1 or condition 2 they have got in the final audit results. Then for the closure audit, we need to charge additional mandates for factories. And the following is the auditor flow. So if factories have the audit request, then they need to submit one application form to our sales team. Then our sales team will prepare quotation and sign contracts with the factories. So, and then we will schedule for the audits. Normally, when from the signed contracts to our auditors go to on-site, it will normally take at least 2 weeks. So if the factory want to have the certificates earlier, so please apply this audit earlier. After we go, after our auditor complete the on-site audits, then we will release the reports and all the certificates within 10 working days. If the factory get the pass in the first audit, then we will issue the certificate directly within 10 working days. But if the factory cannot get the pass results in the first time, then we will send a corrective action plan to factories and help factories to make improvements accordingly. And actually, after signing the contracts, we will share the document list to factories for factories to prepare for the audits. So here we have listed clearly which documents are required in each question. Here is our audit capacity. Currently, we have developed auditors in China, Turkey, Bangladesh, Vietnam, and India. And in the next few weeks, we may develop the auditors in Thailand and Indonesia as well, because we have received some inquiries from these two countries. Currently, till now, we have conducted audits, MRSL Level 3 audits in many countries, such as in China, Bangladesh, and Turkey. But through our communication with our contracted factories, we found some typical issues before we go to on-site for the audit. So here I will share some points with you that will be maybe helpful for you to prepare for the audit. The one problem is the factories cannot understand our document list. This problem, the small factories of management system don't know what is management system, and they don't know how to prepare these documents. So in this case, we have discussed internally and can offer the classroom training or the online training to these kinds of factories to help factories to have a basic understanding of management system and our MRSL Level 3 audit requirements. Of course, these kinds of training are not delivered by our audit team. It will be delivered by our academy department. And other problems include the factories cannot fully understand the local regulation and the legislation, or they do not know which documents are mandatory in our document list. And they don't know if on-site activities are compliant with MRSL Level 3 requirements. So for such kind of factories, maybe they have done something for management system, but they are not very confident with their process or the management. So for these factories, we have marked our document list with different colors. So if for the red color, it means these documents are mandatory for factories if these are applicable for this kind of factories. And the green color means the factories can get extra points if they meet these requirements. Besides, we have also discussed with ZDHC, and ZDHC proved that we can provide a pre-audit service to factories before we go for actual on-site audit, because our target is to help factories understand more or clear about MRSL Level 3 requirements, not just give pass or fail results. So if the factories cannot make sure or can not confident about the MRSL Level 3 level, then can contact us and for the pre-audit service as well. So Rakesh, this is all the insights from my side for the MRSL Level 3 audits. Yes. So I can hand over to you.
Yes, thank you very much, Arrow, especially for also sharing some of the typical issues that chemical formulators came up with and how we address this. Yeah. Now, having looked at interaction with chemical formulators and then tier 2 factories and then brand liaison office, then looked at what is included in version 2.0, level 1, 2, 3, and how can a chemical formulator be prepared for level 3. I mean, with all of that as a short introduction, the next step would be that you would receive, of course, a link to the recording. You also will receive contact details of our colleagues. Should you have questions, pop it into Q&A. We saw some of the questions and our colleagues have been responding to them. Arrow, maybe you can take up one question. The question is that there's a home textile agent. The customer wants them to showcase ZDHC report. I think they mean ZDHC wastewater report. So each of the dyeing factories that have wet processing, so wet processing factories, some of them have in-house ETP. So what should be done? Is it correct that all they have to do is they have to follow the ZDHC wastewater guidelines, and they have to conduct sampling as indicated in the wastewater guidelines, and of course fulfill legal requirements?
Rakesh, do you mean the questions in the Q&A box? Is there any practical operations of disposing the hazardous wastewater and sludge from mills with own in-house ETP?
Yes, exactly. So the disposal has to be compliant with, of course, local laws, and the ZDHC report has to showcase as per the requirements what are the sampling points for in-house ETP, and then indicate that there are no.
Before we meet ZDHC wastewater guideline requirements, we need to meet local legal requirements firstly. So for the hazardous wastewater, if the factory can treat the hazardous wastewater and dispose them without hazardous substance, then they can discharge maybe directly to the CETP or to the environment directly. But as I know, in China, for the hazardous wastewater, such as in the printing, with the printing process, the factory needed to pre-treated this wastewater and to remove the hazardous substance firstly, and then discharge to the CETP.
Okay.
And sludge as well.
Okay, thank you, Arrow. Then, if I can please request our colleagues to turn on their videos, so our participants can also have a look at you, and if they still have questions, they can of course pop it in. If not, then I would want to say teşekkürler to all the participants from Turkey. Şeşe, Shukriya. Thank you very much, of course, for the participants to join this interesting type of webinar, our role play webinar. Thank you for patiently being there. And also thank you to our colleagues from different parts of the world for taking time for being here. And of course to you, Ryan, for helping us with all the logistics. Please take care, and until later then. Bye-bye.